Okie doke. So this is we're at the Cosmoverse, the best Cosmoverse side event in Passage. We're at the Atom Oasis in collaboration with Atom Accelerator, the DAO, and we're hanging out with Eric from AstroVault. Dude, tell me more about what you guys are doing. If you just want to kind of introduce yourself real quick, and then we can talk about kind of latest with AstroVault.
Sure. What's up, guys? I'm Eric Waisanen. Background's in economic philosophy. Been in crypto since 2017. 2016, I got banned everywhere for card counting. Do a lot of game theory stuff, and
Woo!
yeah, been really focused in the space on taking all the really cool science fair projects people are building and turn them into proper businesses. We did that with AstroVault. The idea for Dex is, last bull market, every single Dex had like multi-billion-dollar valuations and zero revenue. And I'm like, that's
Wow.
not going to work. Perpetual expenses. Most not only didn't have revenue, but didn't have the means of getting it. And even if they did, it wouldn't be close to their expenses. There was no way for them to operate profitably.
Right.
And the ways they were trying was just siphoning out liquidity. So we redesigned some things, monetized liquidity, made the most concentrated liquidity in all of Web3, and we rolled out AstroVault, bootstrapped, self-funded. We did end up getting an Atom Accelerator grant, so thank you guys very much to go build it on Neutron. So
Woo!
we're now multi-chain,
Yes.
not cross-chain, but actually use Archway and Neutron at the same time. We'll be on Nibiru next month.
That's awesome.
And we operate profitably right now.
Praise the Lord, dude.
0 to 100, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's huge. I mean, I would say that's really interesting, and I think that's a great point. So I want to get into just like first and foremost, what's next for AstroVault. So you're on Neutron now. You are officially multi-chain. What's kind of next on your radar? And then I'd love to just get in your thoughts in general about like profitable apps in Web3, because I feel like that's a huge basket of issues that we run into in the Web3 space. But first, just kind of what's next on the AstroVault roadmap.
Yeah, so several things. One, we're deploying on Nibiru. So Archway, we had a lot of really strong partnerships there. We were able to get bootstrapped. We've got our passage liquidity on Archway.
Yes.
Then we launched on Neutron. Neutron gives us stronger connections to Atom. We're going to try to bootstrap some more cool Atom pairs here really soon.
Sick.
But we'd love to make Atom a more solid base token of liquidity. Part of running profitably means we don't have to force everything to be paired against the AXV token.
Right.
We're okay. We get buyback and burn pressure. You can stake AXV to earn Atom at like 12 or 13% APR right now.
That's wild.
So we're doing fine. But then on Nibiru, we're going to get better connections to EVM and Solana type stuff. And they're doing some really cool stuff with Token Factory, which gives our token more utility than how we've done it as a CW20 on 2 different networks right now. We use IBC different than everyone else. We have a native token on every chain we deploy on, and we centrally manage everything so that it still follows our tokenomics rules. But after the Nibiru deployment, or kind of concurrently with the Nibiru deployment, we're working on our payment processing solution for decentralized business customers. So you guys might be interested in that. That's going to basically enable people to buy Jackal storage as our first trial. They'll buy Jackal storage with a credit and debit card. No, like, hey, submit your driver's license and all this other extra stuff. It's just buy it like you buy anything online, because you're not touching the Jackal token. You're just buying storage.
Yeah, so, that's wild. I love
rolling that out. Then rolling out. Next up is rolling out multi-chain governance. So you can stake AXV to earn Atom, but once we roll out governance, you'll also be able to stake AXV to earn Atom and vote on Atom governance props. The AstroVault DAO will have governance power in Passage. And so by staking AXV, by LPing AXV, you'll be able to vote on Passage governance props. And yeah, it's going to be interesting.
That's wild, dude. I love that. For one, it's just fascinating seeing the thought you guys have put into AstroVault. And I felt this from the beginning, but as a builder, I feel like a lot of times we never have the time to actually like dig into other people's projects the way we should. And so like, I'd seen elements of that, and that was what initially attracted me to AstroVault, was like, for one, just seeing good builders, right? Especially in projects that are this early, projects that are kind of on the cutting edge, so much of it is really just about the people, right? You are, kind of putting your bets on the individuals, right? Are they going to see this vision through? But then secondly, is it a vision worth seeing through? And I loved that thesis of a profitable DEX, right? Because that's what osmosis I mean, I love what Sunny's doing. So many cool things, and I'm not up to date with the latest on osmosis, but there's so much value there. I mean, and again, like you said, all these other dexes as well. There's so much value being traded, and yet, like you said, there's no profitable model, right? It's not actually sustainable. They become these really big, monolithic elements in their ecosystem because people rely on them so heavily. And so they can't fail in a sense, like they have to put more and more manpower, infrastructure, or whatever behind it, but it's not sustainable. So I love that mindset, and I feel like there's a lot of elements there with AstroVault that I still need to dig into on your roadmap. So that's awesome.
And
Uh,
if we're positioned to where like we can't fail, but we're also designed to fail, it leads to some kind of like tension. Like we were the guys back in 2021 being like, "Hey, get
right.
out of Terra. Hey, stay away from Olympus DAO," while everyone else was raising millions of dollars to like make some kind of fork between the two. It's like, no, this
Wow.
isn't the way forward. Like, oh, yeah, and we were told we were crazy, we were lunatics, or the opposite, I guess. But
Right. Right.
at the same time, we're still here.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny you say lunatics. I just got that. Um, yeah. So no, 100%, and that's really difficult. I've seen this as a trend in general, and I'd love to just kind of talk about this for a minute. That there are so many projects in Web3 where we feel like we can kind of redefine the rules. We can redefine the laws of gravity, right? And people don't have to. There's a weird sense in which, because of the kind of sometimes obscure tokenomic systems, they don't actually have to be profitable. They don't have to make sense, and they can sustain. What is it they say? So the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent, right? I feel like
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
the same thing with products, where it's like this product can remain irrational, right? For long enough for you to invest all your money and lose it. You know what I mean? Like it only makes sense long enough while people are putting money in. But a lot of these systems and a lot of these things people are creating, there's nothing there, right? Everything from games to DeFi plays, things like that. I'd be curious on your thoughts on, like, for one, why do we see this all over the place, but then also, like, when are people going to learn? Both consumers and builders, right?
Yeah. So, well, Web3 was created by brilliant developers that built brilliant things, and then they were told that you can make a whole bunch of money by randomly creating economies, and the last thousands of years of global business just completely throw that out the window. And then
Yeah.
finally, like, it's probably 2019, before people started realizing, like, oh, we need better economics in this space, then they brought in economists, and economists are really good at optimizing the systems in place. But the systems in place didn't make any sense because things weren't businesses. So you're not
Mm,
measuring dexes by revenue versus expense, you're measuring them by TVL compared to market cap, which is completely like arbitrary. But instead you're getting all these like, oh, well, we can get better market cap to TVL if we do this kind of stuff. And it's like, that
yeah.
does not matter.
Right.
Like, AUM is a great vanity metric depending on what you're making on it. If I have half the AUM and 3 times the revenue, I'm going to go with that. So it's frustrating.
Yeah.
An example of like 2 different business models that we can see in this space, from like immature in Web3 to like mature in Web3. I played a pretty significant part in designing the Jackal V4 tokenomics they're rolling out right now,
Mm,
where they're raising the prices. So much of it goes to like if you buy storage, basically, so much of what you spend is going to go to the storage providers. So much is going to go to the protocol that
yeah.
develops protocol and liquidity. So it leads to some Jackal buyback pressure. It leads to long-term treasury building for the Jackal DAO.
Yeah.
There's commission built into the protocol, so now there's a global decentralized sales team where anybody can be a professional Jackal salesman wherever you live. Like, that's the kind of stuff that's needed for decentralized businesses to grow. You need every part of a company to function, and more efficiently, which they should be able to. Um,
Yeah.
Whereas Packet Network, which is a brilliant protocol, brilliant idea, where you have like decentralized internet that isn't dependent on the rest of the internet. What I've saw them doing is they've got like a team running a central company. They sell these nodes from their centralized company, and then the nodes get paid for providing the service just from token inflation. But nothing ever buys the token back. Like,
Mm,
there's no sales of the actual
right.
internet service they're providing.
Right.
Like, the dude sells from a central company, for something that lets them tap into inflation, and that's it, and the token just eventually goes to zero. And like, if you look at that from a business perspective,
Yeah.
he is getting all of the revenue, and he's just like dismissing and pushing off all of his costs to something else that gets no revenue. And if the token's entire purpose is to be an expense without revenue, the token's going to go to zero. Period.
Right.
End of story. You have to find a way to charge for that. If Jackal came to us and they're like, "Hey, you guys can buy storage for $15 a month. By the way, all of it goes to Jackal Labs. 100% of it goes to the team, but we'll give you guys some Jackal tokens." I'm not going to touch the Jackal token.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fascinating. And I do think that's really interesting because we do have this dynamic in Web3 where people, I think that really is it, that people don't understand profit or like value flow, right? Because ultimately, man, it's, you see these turtles all the way down scenarios where it's like, okay, we're gonna have this epic NFT collection. There's only gonna be 1,000 of them. Okay, cool. It's rare, but do people want it? Because it's only valuable if you combine those two. Yes, they're gonna want it because this one gives you a whitelist access to the next NFT collection. Okay, and what does that one do? Well, that one is going to give you access to unique token distributions. Okay, what's the token do? And it's just like all the way down. It's these layers of like just putting off the value, right? And it's like, well, what do people?
The most valuable customer to us. Like,
right,
congrats.
exactly. And so there's a lot of that though, where people just don't understand. Like, at some point, you just need to make something people want, right? Like, it's really that simple, and people will trade their money for it. And then you got to do something with that money, right? You got to try and turn that into more money, right? That's got to allow you to create more of the thing that people want, and then you get more money. And it really is that simple, but that's also just the hardest part of creating a business, is like dealing with the fickle human whims in our open market, right? And getting exposure to your product, creating something people actually want to use, getting people to use it again, getting people to pay the right price, all of those things. And it's hard, and it's slow, and it's tedious, and there's like, product market fit involved. But I feel like people feel like, and I think that's what you're describing too, is that like it seems like people kind of were like, oh no, here's a shortcut, right? We can just do this instead. And it's like, well, yeah, but there's no value there, right? Like, what are people?
It's ownership. Meanwhile, the actual investors are buying equity in the companies, and then they can get rid of the token and take the company public. It's like, it's so janky. And even classifying crypto as a single asset class is disingenuous to the people who are designing tokens that are meant to scale.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and here's the thing too that I've seen that's interesting is that I think it's especially complicated when you get into like because if you have employees, right? How are your employees getting paid, right? The whole idea of operating a Web3 business, I would say anywhere in the world, but especially in the US, is complicated, right? And so you gotta have thoughtful collaboration between what ends up being the founding team, right, and the open protocol. I think that's something a lot of people really struggle to get right, is that balance of, and so you see these scenarios like what you're talking about with Packet, where it's like, well, the founding team is selling something, right, and the open protocol is the one bearing the burden of trying to deliver some kind of value, right? So the founding team gets the money, and the open protocol has to then somehow try to foot the bill, So you run into that a lot, and it's difficult because we're kind of battling on a number of fronts. We're battling on the regulatory clarity front. We're battling on the operating a team front. We're operating on the exposure, education. There's a lot of battles people in Web3 are facing at the same time. I think that's part of what ends up overcomplicating these issues as well.
Yeah. So you want to know a cool global DAO DAO means of bypassing all this?
Yes.
For a decentralized business to function?
Please, I'm always...
Have 100% of the revenue go to the DAO, and have the operating team have like either a rev share or a profit share. We have a profit share deal with our DAO. If we're not operating profitably, we're not getting paid. If we are operating profitably, we get some of the profit to keep our team going. That encourages us to help like tighten up expenses and deal, and because we're considering our token emissions going to LPs as expenses, as we should.
No, that's cool.
Oh, we can print tokens out of anywhere for free. So we have a profit share deal. But if you have some kind of revenue share deal or something with the DAO where the funds go to the DAO directly, which you can set that up wherever. It's completely set up by governance, and ideally governance needs better safety parameters. But now if the core team or a core founding company gets sanctioned or gets in trouble with the law or any of the crazy stuff that can happen, especially globally right now, then you just spin up a new central entity and they get a deal with the DAO.
Yeah.
And it's honestly like regulatory whack-a-mole, where you can just keep spinning up new entities, keep having founders get arrested, but the DAO can keep persisting. Because you will need some kind of centralized entities, but it's the DAO that's actually earning and running the business and holds the funds.
No, that's awesome. And for those watching, this is not legal advice. This is just us having an incredibly fun conversation that is
I'm a
purely
philosophy
educational.
major. This is philosophy.
Right, exactly. It's philosophical, and in which case, I love it. I love these ideas, and I think, shoot, man, seeing the kind of characters we have in Cosmos, particularly, I mean, seeing the people who have been very intentional to build in a way and avoid, geo-blocking, we've seen Stargaze stand up to some of these important issues where it's just unclear. I mean, that's it, right? We're not talking about actual laws, right? Where it's like, oh, they're going against the law. It's just, no, there's just lack of clarity. That's really it. And every person's got to figure out their own clarity. Yeah. But it's really
just one of the precedents that's been set is when they define the law, then they retroactively punish people who broke it when it wasn't a law.
Yes.
Like the Bitcoin truckers in Canada.
Yeah.
They send Bitcoin. There's nothing illegal about sending Bitcoin, but
Right.
then they make it illegal. Oh, by the way, it's illegal now, so we're gonna arrest you for something you did 6 months ago while it was legal.
And my condolences to those people who are in Canada, frankly. So, go America. No, I say that. We are just as equally backwards when it comes to Web3 and crypto. So we have no ground to stand on here, unfortunately. Hey, I know you got to jump. This is awesome, Eric. We got to do a part 2 because this is a blasty blast. I feel like we've just touched the tip of the iceberg in terms of like, I would love to do a deep dive. As much as like it can be, like it's a lot to go through some of these tokenomic structures. I love the philosophy, behind what you're talking about, right? The principles here are really important of creating value and preserving value and multiplying our talents, so to speak. You're doing good stuff, Eric, and really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us here in the Oasis. So appreciate it, brother.
Likewise, man. This is absolutely sick. Passengers of the future for all team meetings and a lot more stuff. Can't wait for Cosmoverse to just be here next year.
Yes. Heck yeah, brother. We'll do it. We'll be doing a lot more.
I'll see you, bro.
Peace.